If you get scared easily, you better not watch this video alone. Top 10 Best Horror Movies on Netflix 2022. Number 10, The Platform. Be careful, this movie is very shocking. The Platform from 2019 tells the story of Goreng, a man locked in a tower-like prison where a single platform descends level by level with food for everyone. As you can imagine, the selfishness of the prisoners means that the food doesn't reach the lower levels, so many people go crazy and are willing to do anything to eat. Disturbing, isn't it? But something you might not expect is that The Platform was originally written to be a play, and the director, Galder Gaztelu Urrutia, took 2 years to adapt it for this Netflix original movie. Also, can you believe that actor Ivan Masagay lost 26 pounds in 6 weeks to play Goreng? They wanted the hunger to show. To top it off, only 2 floors were built for the shooting. The rest were added digitally. Number 9. Insidious. Get ready to feel true fear. The plot of Insidious from 2010 revolves around a boy who unexpectedly goes into a coma, and his family starts having encounters with extremely evil paranormal beings. This film was directed by James Wan, the same director of The Conjuring and Saw, so you can bet that Insidious is really scary. Something quite interesting is that Joseph Bishara, the soundtrack composer, also participated in the shooting, playing none other than the red-faced demon, the main antagonist. Furthermore, the film's screenwriter, Lee Whannell, said that his inspiration for Insidious came from his childhood, when he was horrified by stories of haunted houses and apparitions, as well as the classic films Carnival Souls from 1962 and The Entity from 1982. By the way, remember I told you that James Wan also directed Saw? Well, look, there's a cameo in this scene. Cool, right? Number 8. The Perfection. If you have a weak stomach, I strongly advise you not to watch this movie. Don't be fooled by its elegant look. When The Perfection was released in 2018, hundreds of viewers commented on social media that the film made them sick and vomit. After all, it has some pretty disturbing scenes. It revolves around Charlotte, a young celloist who travels to Shanghai to study at an academy for elite musicians. However, everything starts to go south when the characters show their true intentions. The scenes would seem totally random if it weren't for past events that are being revealed through flashbacks and give some sense to all this madness. As you may have already noticed, Charlotte is played by Allison Williams, who also starred in the acclaimed 2017 psychological horror film Get Out, and plays the role of Kit Snicket in the Netflix series Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. So, disturbance is guaranteed. Number 7. The Fear Street Trilogy. Here, I'll tell you about the complete trilogy of The Fear Street. These 3 movies from 2021 tell the story of the cursed town of Shadyside during 1994, 1978, and 1666, where every so often, the inhabitants turn into psychopathic killers under the influence of a witch. Based on the books of teen horror genius R.L. Stine, this story is quite juvenile, but with very intense doses of horror and blood. Just look at this kill, where, by the way, they used a watermelon. Something interesting is that the saga is full of references, paying homage to classics like Scream, Jaws, Friday the 13th, Carrie, and others. Also, in the opening scene of the first one, a customer in a bookstore criticizes R.L. Stine's books, and the one who attends her is Maya Hawke, the actress of Robin in Stranger Things. Speaking of Stranger Things, the director of The Fear Street, Lee Janiak, is the wife of Ross Duffer, one of the creators of said series. You didn't see that coming, did ya? Number 6. Creep. This film will make you feel paranoia like no other. Creep, from 2014, is shot as a found footage, but unlike films like The Blair Witch Project or Paranormal Activity, Creep doesn't need supernatural elements to be disturbing. The plot revolves around Aaron, a freelance cameraman who accepts the job of filming Joseph, a man who wants to record his last days as he's been diagnosed with a brain tumor. However, gradually, Aaron will discover that Joseph is acting very strangely and seems to be insane. The director, Patrick Bryce, is also the one who plays Aaron in the film, and he, along with Mark Duplass, Joseph's actor, wrote the story of Creep, which they kept modifying during filming, so they shot several endings. On top of that, the director says that the gist of Creep is the psychological construction of both characters. So Aaron is also crazy. Number 5. Crimson Peak. This gothic masterpiece was directed by none other than the groundbreaking Guillermo del Toro. Crimson Peak from 2015 tells the story of Edith Cushing, a young writer who marries Thomas Sharp, played by Tom Loki Hiddleston. However, when she moves in with him, she discovers that there are many ghosts in her house and, even worse, her new husband and his sister hide a macabre past from her. Guillermo del Toro was such a perfectionist with Crimson Peak that he wrote a biography of at least 10 pages for each character. Also, the big house where everything takes place did not exist before filming. Del Toro had it completely built, which took 6.5 months. It had a real elevator, chimneys, and special passages to move the cameras. Do you want to know how good it is? Well, Stephen King, the master of horror, said he thought it was beautiful, terrifying, and electrified him. Number 4. Gerald's Game. Since I mentioned Stephen King in the previous position, it's time to talk about 2017's Gerald's Game, based on the novel of the same name that King published in 1992. This film tells the story of Jessie, who was handcuffed to a bed during a sex game after her husband died of a heart attack. Now she must struggle to survive because she's in a cottage with no people around. Gerald's Game was part of what's informally known as the Year of Stephen King, since movies such as It and Dark Tower, based on 2 other books by the author, were also released in 2017. Fun fact, the production of this film originated on Twitter. The film's director, Mike Flanagan, released Hush in 2016, a thriller that was to King's liking, who tweeted about it, and this comment led them to get in touch and consider adapting Gerald's Game. Number 3. His House. Rotten Tomatoes gave 2020's His House a perfect 100% rating. Mind you, it's much more than a horror movie. The plot revolves around Rial and Bol, a couple of refugees from the war in South Sudan who have arrived in England. Now, while proving to the English authorities that they can adapt, they must deal with a paranormal presence that haunts them with a totally justified reason. This film explores too many social edges. For starters, racism, as the protagonists are discriminated against. Moreover, the film's release coincided with the year when the Black Lives Matter movement was very active. It also explores absolute loneliness, as Rial and Bol are total orphans in a place where they know nothing. Finally, taking accountability for your past actions, no matter how badly you want to start from scratch. Crude, but fair, don't you think? Number 2. It Follows. This movie is simply sensational. It Follows from 2014 is about a curse that's transmitted through sexual intercourse. Just like you heard, if you sleep with someone, boom, that paranormal entity will now follow you. This premise shook everyone up, so much so that even legendary director Quentin Tarantino said he liked it.
In America called It Follows. It's really good. However,
although he also pointed out that some parts didn't make much sense. Moreover, the director of It Follows, David Robert Mitchell, said that he was inspired for this story by his nightmares as a child, where he dreamed that an entity took different forms to catch him, just as it happens with the characters in the film. By the way, everything is supposed to take place in 2014. However, there are almost no cell phones and the houses have TVs from the 80s. According to the filmmakers, these details were on purpose to make the viewer feel even more confused. Do you think this would really make you feel uncomfortable? Bonus. Before we meet the best horror movie on Netflix, it's worth checking out these blockbusters. Cargo. A father searches for someone to entrust his baby to, as he's been bitten by a zombie. Let Me In. A boy witnesses his town being ravaged by killer vampires. The Mist. Based on a book by Stephen King, a mysterious mist covers a town and plagues it with murderous monsters. Ready to meet the most disturbing movie in all of Netflix? Here it is. Number 1. Raw. Did you know that this movie had people swooning at the Toronto Film Festival in its premiere? That's because 2016's Raw has extremely shocking and disturbing scenes. The plot tells the story of Justine, a vegetarian college student, who's forced to eat meat in a hazing. After that, she goes crazy to continue eating meat, which also happens to her sister, who also attends the same university. This will unleash totally gory and unhinged scenes that won't let you sleep. Among the interesting things about the making of Raw is that the director, Julia Ducournau, sent the 3 leading actors every night to watch horror movies and drink beer together to encourage the chemistry of the characters on screen, who live together. And if you were wondering about this raw chicken scene, it was made of sugar, so it's like a giant jelly bean. Are you craving it now? Now it's time to hit Netflix. Tell me, which of these movies will you watch first? If you enjoyed the video, hit like and subscribe to my channel. That way you help me a lot to keep making more content like this. See you.